Hei, este o oră cam târzie acum când filmez acest videoclip, dar am vrut ca informațiile să fie proaspete pentru că tocmai ce am ajuns acasă de la AI Expo Europe. Un eveniment care, probabil l-ați văzut deja pe profilul meu de Instagram, se concentrează în special asupra inteligenței artificiale. Mai exact, au avut loc o mulțime de prezentări interesante despre cele mai noi tehnologii și inovații din domeniul AI. Am avut ocazia să ascult lideri din industrie discutând despre viitorul inteligenței artificiale și despre cum aceasta ne va impacta modul de viață și munca și am făcut și foarte mult networking cu alți programatori, cu oameni din startup-uri și cu oameni din companii de renume precum Microsoft, Salesforce sau Google. Vă las în continuare câteva filmări de la unele prezentări la care am asistat pentru că am surprins câteva momente importante care cred că ar fi de interes pentru voi. Sincer, după aceste 2 zile de eveniment, am realizat încă o dată cât de mult ne va impacta inteligența artificială viitorul și cât de important este să fim la curent cu tot ce se întâmplă în acest domeniu, mai ales ca programator. Inteligența artificială nu mai este de mult doar un simplu concept de viitor, ci este o realitate care ne influențează viețile zi de zi. Fie că vorbim de automatizări din industrie, fie că vorbim de asistenți virtuali sau de tehnologiile care ne fac viața mai ușoară. Este absolut esențial să nu rămânem indiferenți la toate modificările care au loc în jurul nostru și dacă vrem să evoluăm în această eră digitală, este esențial să înțelegem cum funcționează AI și să o integrăm activ în viețile noastre, fie că suntem antreprenori, dezvoltatori sau simpli utilizatori. Eu personal m-am întors cu motivația de a învăța mai mult, de a experimenta această zonă și de a integra AI în proiectele mele, dar m-am întors totodată și cu entuziasmul și cu dorința de a vă împărtăși și vouă această viziune. Așa că faceți-vă comozi, luați-vă notițe și haideți să trecem împreună prin cele mai importante momente de la AI Expo Europe.
But yeah, we are not in the tech business.
AI, obviously, in the hand of a bad actor, can lead to, I don't know, shape-shifting attacks where the code changes and the behavior, and it's difficult to detect. It can generate, I don't know, problems in identifying people, data, and so on with generative AI. We know that it has been a case where a CFO asked people within his team to pay a bill that was being paid, but that was not a CFO but a hacker who was using generative AI to mimic his voice and his personality. So basically, in the face of such accelerated threats, you can use AI to defend using, I don't know, better forensics when you are using and ingesting a lot of historical data to identify the patterns. And this can happen much faster. You can have zero-day defense because obviously an algorithm can work much faster, can detect much easier different patterns which do not fit to the regular one, and real-time defense is achievable. Also, you can use AI-enabled firewalls, denial of service defense that will protect existing systems and future systems from the future threats.
So first of all, generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence. It offers improvement over the earlier models. It has capabilities that artificial intelligence traditionally did not have. And the biggest improvement is that it can take traditional content and it can generate new content. That was a significant breakthrough in generative AI. So for generative AI, we have a series of what are known as foundation models. They can be used for non-generative purposes, such as classifying user sentiment as negative and positive. And when we refer to generative AI, we are going to talk about foundation models and use cases, things that were Bard and is now Gemini, as well as some of the other models that we are now using, ChatGPT, Mistral, and several of the others. So, some of the differences between generative AI and traditional AI. If you look at it, you're going from traditional models that worked on specific tasks, had specific training. Generative AI models, however, learn from existing data to understand underlying patterns and structures. They use that data to generate new data. And I caveat the new data when I say that, because if you do go out and look, some of the art you will see has been, for example, there are examples out there of art very similar to Bart Simpson type representations. So I do put air quotes around the new data, but it does indeed generate new data. This is going to be very important later in the talk. Our focus is, the focus of traditional AI is primarily on analysis, predictions, decision making. The decision making has been based on existing data. Generative AI is generating new content. Traditional AI uses classification, regression, clustering, anomaly detection. What makes generative AI different? It generates new images. It generates text. It can be used in areas like synthetic data and drug discovery. So what are the advantages of using generative AI? It gives any industry, big or small, a competitive advantage. That alone is a compelling reason for using it. As we talked about, even if you're building your own products, if you're embedding generative AI add-ons, you're giving yourself a competitive advantage. We use it to solution real technology problems. We gain efficiencies by using generative AI, as when I was developing this deck as an example. We solve real data problems using generative AI. We use it to innovate. It gives us ways to innovate. It gives us ideas on innovation. It helps us look at sentiment analysis and how something might sound on tone to help us address bias, because it can actually recognize sentiment in a way that you and I may not. So in one sense, although it can increase bias, it can also be used to reduce bias on tone as we're writing our letters, as we're putting our decks together. Because one thing generative AI does for us is it systematically and methodically looks at something and is able both to identify sentiment and separate from sentiment, so that when we are putting sentences together, we can ensure that something may or may not be leading toward bias. So things that you and I may say on a daily basis on a sentiment, we may not realize is biased. But if we're running it through a generative AI checker of some kind, or a tool that has generative AI add-ins embedded, you would absolutely be able to detect that. And so not only would it increase bias, it would, in this instance, help us reduce bias on tone. What does that do for us? That gives us customer satisfaction. So as I was preparing this talk, I wanted to make sure that it was targeted toward the new audience and toward this audience. Not the US audience, but this audience, because I also spent a lot of time working in Europe, in the UK, and so I want to be sensitive that any time that we're developing for this market, that we are sensitive to your market and not just the US. Generative AI helps us do that. Some of the applications in the industry: portfolio optimization, evaluating portfolio performance, assessing risks, generating synthetic data. This is going to become more important later in my talk. Detecting fraud, algorithmic trading. Those are some of the top use cases although there are several others of your own that you could add in here for your applications with Gen AI. So what are some of the alternative data sources with generative AI? Social media data, online purchase behaviors, IoT data, alternative credit data, drug industry. Let me give you a real world example. We're trading on the stock market. We're looking at what the trends on stock market trading might be. We've already got trained AI models. We now have an impact, and the impact is a hurricane, or the impact is a merger or a buyout. Traditional AI would give you a traditional recommendation on that, a traditionally trained model. But if I introduce the generative AI aspect to it, and frankly, I was not able to do that with ChatGPT. For any of you Google fans, I've been following Bard ever since it came out. I knew it would catch up. So I've been following Mistral, I've been following Gemini. The fact that they give you the most current data now allows you to take the impact on evaluating a stock such as NVIDIA, IBM. Look at that stock and not only look at the current condition as it was trained, but add the new data impacts to it and note that all of the stock might be a good buy, a sell, a trade, a hold. These additional factors need to be watch items, and it may give you a different recommendation than you originally had with that stock using just a traditionally trained AI model.
Increase that capability and use the supply chain as a force. You need to work on this supply chain optimization. And the AI tools that are existing right now can do this supply chain full management tools that improves delivery times, reduce costs, and manage risks. Everything is available. Everything that I have here on the list is available in some of the platforms that exist around the world that are accessible in Romania. Sixth, imagine how your business will be if your cash flow predictions are incorrect or inaccurate. You think you have money to pay next week the salaries, but you don't. Because someone made a mistake in the Excel file with a date, and the client that was supposed to pay didn't pay. And you don't have any other risk management solution for this because you are sure that this guy that is a serious client will pay. Did you encounter this? Did you encounter this anytime soon? No? Just the entrepreneur. When I talk about cash flow, the entrepreneur, sorry. Don't remind me. When I talk about revenue, I do sales, I sell. What about profit? What about cash flow? No. So if you still struggle in this area, you need to understand that you need to increase its capability. Financial forecasting. AI-powered financial tools that do the budgeting, cash flow analysis, real-time fraud detection, and financial transactions. The guys from Tervene.ro in Romania are doing a great job already in this field in order to predict a better cash flow situation. Let's go a little bit to the hiring and firing. We usually need someone in the position tomorrow. And what's the average time from starting to talk about the position and that person being onboarded? Let's not talk about a McDonald's employee because they have around 4 days or 5 days, something like this. But for us, 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months. And how many times do you have interviews with unqualified person that they want to work with you, but it's nothing there. So imagine a tool that can help you recruit or pre-recruit, qualify, and then recruit, and then test, and then assess a lot of qualities and a lot of things in the candidate with no bias and very careful on every word. So you receive a full report of the personality, of the way he responds and how he responds in different situations. And that's why we need to increase this competence in business. Hiring and, of course, firing. Talent acquisition management, there are already a lot of tools that are doing this and can help you generate the right funnel for talent management, but also advancing the funnel so you can have only the best candidates at the end. And even then, when you speak with them, you have an additional AI supervisors or assistant that is giving you information that you are missing out. 2 more. Imagine how your business will be if, too fast. Going back, 1 more. Product development. You start with a product and then you focus on sales and you realize in 6 months everybody copied your product. Who got this? You started a product and in 6 months, 10 competitors, cheaper products, more affordable, payment plan, everything. Every time we launch a product, the second day we need to go back to our research and development program in order to see what's next. And if you fail on product development and innovation, I guarantee that you will have a hard time selling something that is already copied and multiplied and improved. So, product development and innovation, I think is very important. Even if we are a small, medium enterprise, we need to think about this because we are in the same market with the large competitors. That's why we need AI tools that are more affordable to do this for us. Last one, I know the entrepreneurs expected this to be the first. Sales forecast. 95% of the entrepreneurs that I ask about sales forecasting, guess what is the answer? Rainy. Rainy? I don't know. Let me check with the accountant. Or, why should I do this forecast? Because I tried 2 times and it didn't end well. Yeah, but you haven't done this with sex. Even the first 2 experiences were bad, you persevered. So forecasting and making a better job in prediction is an effort. You have to understand that if you need or if you want a predictable company that investors will join, they want a predictable and well-managed company. So sales forecast is very important. And without AI, it is practically impossible to create at an affordable price for a small medium enterprise this kind of forecast. That's why I'm really proud to see that there are some AI tools that are already doing this. Generate sales KPI scenarios, like what's happening if it's raining, what's happening if around the country there are some events that are happening, scenarios that impact the KPIs and that will impact the general sales. Predict future sales performance and identify new opportunities.
What do you think we can do to expedite the process of adopting AI agents and digital twins? That was one of the topics discussed earlier today. In Romania, sooner than in other markets, to make us one of the go-to leaders in this field that's actually around from the 80s, but it's commercially available for quite a few years now. That's why it's on everybody's mouth. But thank you, that's the question.
Corporate question, very long. So I will break it in parts. I'm very happy that you touched that point because I think the quality of our developers and programmers and architects in Romania that were used to work for other companies, like man-hour type of renting my time for a client, I don't know. I think this is a unique window that we can use. If 20% of our coders will switch to generating AI tools, we will become Europe's favorite hub. Because we have the knowledge, we are better than the Indians. No offense if somebody is but we are better in terms of reliability, in terms of quality. We are cheaper than the Americans, and the western part. And we are smart, bro. We are smart. And we are like water. We can understand AI because AI is Romanian, I think. You have to negotiate with it. You have to speak in a way that, it's responding. So I think this is a huge opportunity for us, and hopefully this will become an opportunity for the corporate environment too, because if we develop startups with smart guys that are good programmers, that they are shitty checking numbers, you guys that are having private equity funds or VCs or angel investors or corporate funds that are investing in M&A and in innovation, you are going to buy things extremely cheap that you're going to scale. So yes, AI can take our jobs if we are the slaves of other AIs, and Romania becomes a consumer of AI, or it will generate double the jobs that it will destroy if we create startups and businesses based on AI that will export them. Thank you for the question. It's for the smart one. No one.
So, what we know in the regulatory landscape, of course, many of you here in Europe are familiar with the EU AI Act, but there's a lot of other laws and regulations that are occurring around the world. There's also standards work. Groups like ISO and OECD are coordinating efforts, and we're seeing standards emerge in this space. Romania's national strategy on artificial intelligence, there was a statement in July of this year, and what I think is really interesting about it is that it talks about some specific types of use cases involving tax administration, risk analysis, and public options. The other thing that I've noticed is that in fact, we have a need for both organizational and technical controls. So those organizational controls which I mentioned around an AI ethics board and the policies and the procedures and the business units, those are all organizational in nature. And then from a technical standpoint, there are also a lot of different things that can be done, and that can actually be tracking your AI model, providing real-time alerts, doing a lot of the documentation, the technical documentation for you, automating as much of this as possible. And then, really over time, I believe that open innovation and open atmosphere will contribute to increased innovation, and that ultimately, if we're going to scale these responsible AI initiatives, much of it has to be automated. I'll give you an example with red teaming, AI red teaming. Many of you have maybe been familiar with red teaming from a security standpoint and trying to actually break a system, find out the weaknesses, and identify areas that need improvement. So this is an increasing and a very rapidly developing area for responsible AI. But many of the current implementations of red teaming require sometimes hundreds of red teamers and people that actually are quite hard to find in terms of skills. So over time, I believe we are going to see more automation. We do have to be careful about this, about the assumptions that we build in during automation, but it is, in fact, going to help us scale. So we do have a number of resources. You can reach out to me or we can make these charts available, but essentially it's a, there are maturity assessments and resources that we have available. You're welcome to check them out. We also have a number of open source toolkits available.
Quick question, so this framework which you showed, this is phenomenal, because you guys are big, I want small clients, and they have a company like 5 to 50 people. Some of them ask me, they want to start with this, but where do they start? You got 20 employees, you want to employ them responsibly. What would you tell them? Where should they start? 2, 3 simple things maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, so I get this question a lot about just where to start, and if you're a smaller company, what do you do? The thing I always tell people is start with the organizational aspects. So figure out how you want to manage the issues. So that's actually, it could be a committee, it doesn't have to be a board. I mean, just even an informal group of people that are essentially tasked with that sort of assessment of the use cases, because really understanding how you're using AI and is it high risk for you, is it an area you want to be in, those are hard decisions, and having a group that's basically dedicated to addressing that. They don't have to be, full-time, but just they come together on a periodic basis. That's a very fundamental, basic thing that I think just about any organization.
Like champions, for example.
Champions, essentially, yes. And over time, depending on the company, you can go from